What is up, Power Gamer? We find ourselves sitting down with James Phinney, who's currently working on a pretty cool title coming out from the guys over at Motiga. So nice to have you with us here, James.
Glad to be here.
So let's just dive right into it and tell us what you guys got going on over there, because there might be a lot of people out there who's not really familiar with you guys.
Yeah, we're just getting the word out now. We're really excited about what we're doing. It's called Gigantic. It's a PvP action game, 5-on-5, featuring a gigantic monster on each side. And so it's a mix of teamwork, twitch skill, strategy, and you got to work together with your team to power up your gigantic guardian and have them help you fight and take down the enemy guardian.
Yeah, so the first thing that comes to mind when you say 5 versus 5 PvP, the first thing that comes to my mind is, oh, it's a MOBA. But would you call it that?
We don't tend to call it that. I think some people will, and that's fine. I mean, certainly MOBA is a pretty broad genre in some senses, but we don't think of it that way when we're working on it, and we don't tend to call it that when we're talking to other people about it, because I think it calls to mind a traditional MOBA, sort of the Defense of the Ancients legacy there. And, this is draws influences from that, but it draws a lot of influences from shooters and from RPGs, action games. The controls are very direct third-person shooter. You're aiming everything. There's a lot of use of three-dimensional space, jumping around, dodging. The game's very fast-paced and active, and so we think that thinking of it specifically as a MOBA probably puts the wrong images in your mind.
And I can't agree with you there, though, because one of my first other thoughts when I saw the game being played in a live action trailer, I saw the. It just came to me like, wow, is this like the Team Fortress 2 experience? I got some of that feel, both from the graphical style of it all and, like you say, the fast-paced action. Would you call it that? Would Team Fortress be one of those earlier inspirations that you were talking about?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah? Actually, when I think about the sort of steps that brought us to make this project, and for me personally, the influences. The original Quake mod Team Fortress was a big inspiration for me. Since I played that, I always wanted a chance to make a game that brought in some of those elements. And then there are other things over the years that have influenced me, made me want to do some of the things that we're doing in Gigantic.
Okay. So let's just turn it back the clock a little bit, because you guys set up shop in 2010, I believe. That's correct, right?
Yes, I think that's right. I've been here for about 2 years now, so I wasn't there for the very beginning, sort of early years at Motiga, and there was a period sort of getting technology in place, and then an earlier period of laying a foundation on the game and trying to figure out what it was. I think they knew from a pretty early stage they wanted to have the Guardians in it, but weren't quite sure how to bring it all together. And then I had the opportunity to join the team and to look at what they'd done so far, to see the sort of exciting potential of the action-y gameplay and the giant monsters, and thought about some of the stuff I'd worked on before, and felt like I could shape it all into a really cool competitive experience, and that's what we've been trying to do ever since.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting, though, because you dropped this kind of game-changing thing in the midst of a time where MOBAs are doing really well, and stuff like Dota 2 and League of Legends are just dominating the charts. So what would you say, how come you guys sat down at this time and just discussed the things like, okay, we need to change the MOBA game, we need to bring back the action-paced shooter thing?
Well, I think that people have been playing that kind of game for a while, and obviously it's a ton of fun. There are actually guys at the office that play League every day at lunch. But I think that players are always looking for a new experience, always looking for something cool, and that in some ways I think it's not that important to worry about the exact market at a particular time. That people will find awesome games. You put it out there, you make something that's worth playing, they're going to play it, they're going to talk to their friends about it, the friends are going to try it out too. And really it's about the quality of what you do, getting it out there. I do think that what you don't want to do is look at what's successful right now and try to mimic it. You know, I think there are probably, well, they're not probably, right? There are a lot of people out there trying to sort of clone what's there, and that's
definitely,
that's never a formula to make something amazing. So for us, you know, it was never a question of, you know, how do we put our own slight different spin on this thing. It was, what do we want to make that we think would be awesome, that we want to play and that other people will want to play.
Great, man. We love that mentality. So going back into the game and the part of the game where I believe that you derive the title from, Gigantic, we have these huge guardians of both fighting sides. So what's their stake in this, and do we play them, or is it just a part of
they're AI controlled? I mean, they're so integral to the pacing of the game and to sort of different stages of the game that we really wanted to be able to have the control to make sure that they help shape a really good match. You know, when you look at a good PvP experience, it's about the moment-to-moment gameplay. It's about whether or not the depth is there. But the pacing matters a lot, and whether or not you get good stories out of it matters. You know, I think one of the ways I always try to look at game design and look at games is as a storytelling experience, not just the kind of directed narrative experience, but what are the moments that as a player you have that you want to tell other people about. And so when we were looking at Gigantic from a game mechanic standpoint and how we wanted to put it together, being able to have the Guardians provide these really dramatic moments, you know, running through and this giant creature comes in and just smashes the building next to you. Having them, spitting giant balls of poison over your shoulder, or send out tornadoes that would send enemies flying. Those kind of visceral moments matter a lot. And then for us, being able to use them to create dramatic moments. So each Guardian has 3 wounds that you have to take down in order to kill them. And so at any point, you know, you're asking yourselves, how are we doing in the game? There are a lot of different factors, how much of the map you control. There are points where you can summon creatures that give you strategic benefits. There's, you know, how you guys are doing level-wise and just how the fights are going. But ultimately, the score is how many wounds has your Guardian taken versus the other Guardian. And the Guardians are so big and tough, you can't take them down on your own. What you need to do is power up your Guardian, travel with him across the map. He'll smash some things up along the way to try to give you some map advantage. And then he'll take down the enemy Guardian, knocking him into a vulnerable state. And when the enemy Guardian is stunned, that's when you've got 20 seconds to actually do that wound. And so we get out of using the Guardians to control the mechanics, sort of control the pacing of the game, we get these moments of intense drama. And then, you know, you can have a game where your team is losing in map control and isn't tending to power up their Guardian first. But if you're able to defend your Guardian, you're able to keep the other team from converting wounds, and when you have opportunities, you're able to take advantage of them, you can still come back and win.
And just to further paint that picture, while all of this is going on, 10 players of 5-man each teams will be fighting each other.
Yes, yeah, and you know, each with unique heroes. That's one of the MOBA influences that is in the game, and the heroes have a number of skills that you get to upgrade throughout the course of the battle. And one of the things we try to do with the skill design and the upgrades is the skills start fairly straightforward, and then the upgrades aren't just increasing them in power, but choosing how they're going to work. So you can take Voden's a character I was playing last night. He's sort of a deer, fox, woodland creature archer guy.
Sure, why
not? He's got a fun sort of bag of tricks. So he's an archer. You can, you know, hold down your left mouse button to power up his shots, increase their range and accuracy and damage, right? And then his second skill creates a poison cloud, and arrows you shoot through it. So enemies that are in there get poisoned, but also arrows you shoot through it will poison enemies. So you can use that to kind of position things. Upgrades for that let you create a sort of more dangerous poison cloud, or you can change it so that instead of creating a poison cloud at your location, he shoots out a ball of poison, which can then travel along and hit people. His third skill summons a decoy, so just the sort of guy that looks exactly like him, shoots, doesn't do a lot of damage. And you can upgrade him so that he does become more effective combat-wise, can actually do some of the same skills you do. Or you can take him in a direction where instead of summoning him at your location, you can summon him away from you. And then one of the upgrade branches off of that is to be able to hold the skill down after you've summoned him to swap places with him. So then it becomes really good as a decoy and gives you more maneuverability and ability to deceive enemies. So you can build that for power, or you can build it for maneuverability and tactical advantage. And then he's got a couple other skills as well. Healing spring that also, if you jump on it, there's a little geyser and it'll launch you up in the air high, and that you can build that for more healing. You can also upgrade it so that it's better in combat. Somebody gets up to you, you create the spring, and the water bursts out and sends them flying. And so, what we try to do is, again, the skills are pretty straightforward when they start, but then you've got choices about how to upgrade them that you can use based on your particular play style, but also based on, how the match is going or who you're fighting against. When I'm playing as Voden, depending on who's on the enemy team and what I'm worried about, I might build more for healing and working support. I might build more for focusing on damage, or I might worry a little bit more about maneuverability and my own survival.
Yeah. And you have these heroes that are very strong characteristics, and they have their very own unique styles, and they definitely seem inspired by MOBAs, as you said earlier. But how important will is there a huge amount of synergy between these characters? Will team composition be very decisive, or do you see these players playing them more like a one-man show?
Right. We definitely want teamwork, synergy between characters, and cooperation to be an important thing. But what we haven't done is try to build off of traditional combinations or roles. One of the things that I like to have in a competitive game is real freedom for players strategically, that you can try to take an approach where your team is sticking together more. You can try to take an approach where you're moving in a couple of squads. It's a nice thing about 5-man teams. The breakdowns of how you combine, whether you got, sort of 4 in 1, a death ball, and then one guy who's running around sort of harassing back lines.
Right.
3-2 split in either direction, whether you've got, when you've got a threat in your own back lines. This is not, again, just in terms of things that aren't remotely similar to traditional MOBAs. It's not lanes, there aren't towers, and so it's very possible to go split up and threaten your opponent's backlines early on, and figuring out how as a team you respond to that. And that can vary a lot based on the specific character matchups. Depending on who they're using to sort of sneak past you and cause trouble, you may need to bring a different guy or 2 different guys back. But of course, if you're sending 2 back to deal with 1 guy, then you're giving your opponents a 4-on-3 elsewhere.
Yeah. So is there just any way at all you could give us a breakdown of your typical gigantic game? What do you see when you play tennis nowadays? Like how do they usually play out, if it's even possible to paint?
Well, it can be pretty diverse for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So I can describe one of the games we played last night, and we've got a few different groups of testers, and some of them, and one of the things that's really important to us is trying to get in serious competitive players. So definitely played some recently against a team where I would say their average, individual player skill level is a little bit higher than ours. And
nicely put.
And as a game developer, you have to accept kind of early on that that's going to be the case. And we've got some guys on the team that are actually really, really quite good as players. I may not be one of them. I'm not terrible, but there are waters that are
honesty's a virtue.
Yeah. But we went in and just completely blew the initial encounter. So in the very beginning, you jump out, 5 of you. You've each chosen your hero that you're playing as, but also your creature loadout. So you've got 5 slots to define what creatures you can summon.
Oh.
And these vary in terms of toughness, in terms of what kind of combat stuff they do, how long they take, how difficult they are to summon, but also in terms of things like strategic benefits. So they're what we call bloomers. They're tree people, and they heal you, and they'll actually provide a healing aura in a really large radius. So figuring out where you're going to put those and sort of covering a lot of the map with health regeneration for your team can be pretty important. But then there's also a Cerberus, which acts as a watchdog, and it'll show you the positions of enemies on the minimap, which normally you don't get. So typically you want to have at least one of each of those, but of course they're a lot more fragile than a lot of other creatures that you can put down. So we'd gone out, divvied up, quick discussion, who was going where to summon, kind of split up initially, and then there's a center point, sort of informally called the clash point in the particular map that we were playing at. And we sent a couple of our guys up there to make sure the enemy team didn't grab it right away. They interrupted the initial summon there, got driven off a point, and then we started to disagree about whether we were going in force to take that, or whether we were approaching on the other side of the map. We ended up trying to push on the other side of the map. Didn't respond very well to the initial push coming from the clash point from the other team, and proceeded to play a pretty quick game in which we just got beat down.
Typical day at work.
The whole thing, yeah. And, that's just us not being coordinated, not working well. And one of the things we try to do in Gigantic is make sure that matches last the appropriate amount of time. So that match didn't last very long. It was probably 7 minutes or something like that.
We all ate Mondays.
We didn't do it well, right? And then, got into another game where we did a lot better. We're more organized, worked out, controlled a little more than half of the map pretty early on. Got the first rampage, which is we powered up our Guardian first. He traveled across the other side, got in, got a wound on the other Guardian, so now we're up 3-2, right? Got the next push as well. Didn't get the wound there, and then started to get a little bit overconfident. Guys started to not coordinate as well, started to feel like, okay, we can just pick these guys off, right? And we overextended. We had a couple guys looking to actually summon on the far side of the map, which is a bigger risk or investment. It's harder to get reinforcements, and so they're going all the way deep into the enemy base, killing their creatures, and then starting to summon there, which spending a lot of time not fighting if you're doing that. The other team, in the meantime, feeling pretty pressured, gathered 4 of their guys to run down the left side of the map, 1 guy on the right side of the map. And so we've got 1 guy back on D saying, hey, they got 4 of them coming in on the left side. And we got 2 guys going, hey, there's just 1 guy over on the right, let's get him. And then somebody, up front harassing the base. We didn't respond to their threat very well and ended up losing one of our front points, which is sort of a linchpin, sort of the front point in your base. Ended up losing that. They summoned there. The 1 guy that was exposed over on the right side managed to escape, and we sort of squandered the opportunity entirely. Every battle ends with what we call the clash. So you have these sort of preliminary points where you're fighting over the map, you're trying to get wounds early, and then once the action's gone on for a little while, the clash is triggered, and both Guardians break out of their lairs, the rooms that they start in, smash into the middle of the map, sort of reshape the battlefield there, and all the creatures that have been summoned move into that area too. There's no more summoning, and now it's just this intense fight to finish it off. Going back to the point earlier, I wanted to make sure that we built a game structure that lent itself toward drama. So get into the clash, and at this point, creature counts are actually pretty even. There'd been, through most of the match, we'd dominated and controlled most of the map, but we'd, at the key juncture, allowed them to retake a lot of map control. So we went in even, got scattered about, moving into the clash area, got picked off. They got an attack there, finished it off. Anyway, it goes back and forth pretty quickly at the end. You're trying to kill the other team's creatures. Whittles down to now no creatures out. just 5-on-5. The two Guardians, they're both down to 1 wound each. And at this point, the fastest way to build power is to kill the enemy players. That's usually the fastest way, but you don't always have the opportunity. But in the Clash, because it's a more confined arena.
Fun way, I can tell you that.
Yeah, yes, for sure. It comes down to that, and so final battle comes down to who's going to get the kills, and it's this race, and you're looking at these power bars. First one to fill up, that guy's going to get the attack, and we got wiped. We'd had control. We turned it around. We'd made some mistakes. We sort of reestablished, sort of stabilized things in the Clash. But then when it came down to that last fight, lost the fight. They got the attack and finished our Guardian off. So, not the way I want that story to go, but you get these sort of dramatic comebacks and some chance for adjustment during the game. They definitely adjusted the way they were playing. We got a little bit sloppy. We still had a chance to turn it around despite some big strategic mistakes in the middle. And when it came down to it, we lost the most important fight and lost it.
Well, that sounds like the gigantic experience. So you can definitely tell that it's about the fast-paced combat and the split decision making almost.
For sure,
it sounds cool, man. It's been almost like what is it now? 6 months since you first aired the announcement trailer up on the web. So what kind of appreciation have you gotten back from that?
Response has been fantastic.
Yeah,
we really, obviously people respond to the art style and also are, excited to see more about the game, to get their hands on the game. We've had, a ton of alpha signups. We, we're initially planning on just being in North America for a little while, but response in Europe has been so good to the trailer and everything that we talked about that it was really important for us to also get servers up in Europe and get people playing there. So it's been fantastic.
Yeah, cool. And one thing that you will always come back talking about when it's about like games of this caliber, like is the esport potential and the esport qualities that it might have. And what's your guys' take in this? Is the game built for the big stage, do you think?
Yeah, we don't think it's something that you sort of force on the game, but I'd love to see it if that's in the cards for us. The important thing for us is to make sure that we're making a game that's worthy of that. I think that comes down to a lot of things. There's a lot in terms of presentation and polish that I think can make that a better experience. But really, the core comes down to: is it a good competitive experience? Does it have the fun factor, but does it have the depth? Does it have the strategic options? Does it give you those opportunities for teamwork, and does it have a gameplay that lends itself toward dramatic moments? And so we definitely try to build with all that in mind. The other big thing, I mentioned it earlier, there's going to be a variety of skill levels on the dev team. And even though there are some really good players here, it's really important for us to be serious about bringing players from the community, involving them in the experience of balancing the game, helping us tackle the more difficult design questions. Make sure that we're making a game that serious players actually respect and enjoy and can work for them as a competitive experience. And so we've been trying that from the start, making sure we do these sort of play tests and discussion sessions with really good players, and make sure that helps shape what we're doing. And then we'll see whether that translates into esports or not.
And we're all about to find out. You guys ended 2014 by going in alpha in Europe. So are you guys expecting to ship the full game, during 2015?
Now I really should have noted whether or not we're talking about that stuff. What I'd say is it's alpha right now, but it's fun right now, and so we're definitely trying to keep an aggressive pace in terms of where we can go. But with a game like this, it's really important to be realistic with yourself about where it's at, and to be willing to adapt your schedule to what's right for the game, what's right for the community, whether or not it's actually ready to go into one stage or another.
Yeah.
I definitely, we'll definitely be in beta this year.
Yeah. And for you guys listening right now, it might not still be too late to go into alpha. So go head on over to www.gogigantic.com for your chance to try out the game in alpha session for yourself, and hopefully have loads of fun with that.
Yeah, fantastic. We're definitely looking forward to getting more and more players in.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to get way more information on Gigantic coming out of you guys. So thanks a lot, man, for sitting down with us and running us through the early Gigantic experience.
Awesome. Thank you.
Stay tuned at PowerGamer.se.